Yes, I will start again. This is Bhavna. I had not started the recording. And this is Bhavna, and welcome to the webinar. So, let's go to this is a little bit about me. I run a leadership development company, and I used to be an engineer, and then this was my calling. I also write for Forbes online. Um, under business and strategy, and I will serve on a board of directors. And I have recently published a book called Team Decision Making. It's available on Amazon. Here is the book, and this is an e-book, and I also have some print copies of the book. So I will share that entire process that I went through with you all, and I'm hoping that some of you can end up, really producing some kind of writing and some kind of work that you really feel happy about in future. So that is my expectation, and I just wanted to share what I've done. So this book is actually a collection of my insights from coaching and leadership development workshops that I have been doing, and it has many practical, structured, research-based practices and models for the decision-making process, and it does focus a lot on teams. This is some of the products that we have, with which I work with corporates and one-on-one. So some of the individual work that I do is helping executives go from one level to a senior level and helping them with the interview process, helping them in various different leadership competencies. This is just a very brief, description. And so now I've already sent the poll out open, this one. I'm trying to understand a little bit more. Some people, so we have a very diverse crowd, and some people are interested in just knowing very basics of how do you start making your voice heard on the social media. And some are more advanced and they already are very close to publishing a book and want to understand how to do that. So please feel free to share. I know a few of you have already shared, so for those of you who came in a little bit later, I will just share. There are some people who have their own business and they want to market and brand themselves. Then there is another person who's writing for their organization and trying to explain what the organization does in the form of stories. Business storytelling is another separate module that I work with people on, and I help senior executives especially. And yes, a lot of people want to understand the journey of personal branding. Excellent. And so let's get started. And if anybody has any more to add, if somebody is keen to understand the journey of personal branding, I have sort of fallen into it myself. And I did not realize that this is what I was doing. I was actually keen on just helping people when I started out. And if somebody wants to be an author and publish a book, fantastic. So really exciting. And I'm really, really privileged to be in this company. We are, as a company, I would also like to thank my very small team of interns who helped me, and this a big shout out to Shruti, who actually does a fantastic job with these presentations and all our workshop presentations as well. So moving on now to the next part. So this webinar is for you if you have something that you really want to say to the world and you cannot keep it in anymore. If you want to actually grow your business. And the other thing that I also want to mention is that it doesn't matter when it comes to personal branding, it doesn't matter if you are in an organization or if you have your own business or you're an independent consultant or you're an artist. So if you want to build your brand, this is the part we will be focusing on. You want to help others with your ideas. Okay, somebody else is a content writer, they want to sharpen the axe, excellent. You want to know as an expert, you want to be known as an expert in the field. You want to get speaking assignments. I don't think we have many here, maybe some dormant speaking aspirations, and you want to learn new tools. So please please be aware that whether you like it or not, you will have to learn a lot of new tools as you go along. And if some people have always wanted to be a writer. So these are the different reasons why, that you need to be here for this webinar and what we will cover. Our agenda for today is why is personal branding important? The business impact of writing. Again, doesn't matter whether you're an employee, an artist, independent consultant, no matter where you are, but as a person. I think I would even go far and stretch and say, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, it's still, you can still create a personal brand. The technical and the creative aspects of writing, planning your writing, and the publishing, self versus traditional, I will try to cover it if there's interest. I mean, I have the whole content ready. So, but if it's boring to some of you, uh, I would suggest please hang on, because when somebody told me about it the first time, I wasn't ready for it. But then when I got ready for it, whatever little I'd heard from them was very helpful. So it is something very interesting, very cutting edge, and it's good to know. So now, personal brand. What is a personal brand? A personal branding is an ongoing process of establishing a prescribed image or impression in the minds of others about an individual, group, or organization. So that's the reason why I say that you could be in an organization or you could be on your own. You can always create a personal brand, but it is a deliberate process. It's not automatic. It is a journey of a lot of self-reflection, self-awareness, and really going after what is special to you. So it is very individual. It is a lot about knowing yourself. And for me, when this started happening, the process of knowing myself led me to greater creativity, and which further led me to writing. So just to share my bit, it helps you establish your credibility and expertise no matter where you are. Like I said, even if you are at home, it helps people associate you with your work. Slowly, especially if you are running your own business, slowly as they hear you, they read what you write. Over time, it starts getting solidified in their head. And so recently, the Uber CTO got into some trouble, and then a friend of mine wrote, and there was some talk of, he needs some leadership coaching or things like that. And somebody wrote to me, hey, so they make that connection um, because they've been reading about what you believe in, you are writing and trying to, express yourself. It does differentiate you from your competitors, and it helps you to reach your target audience better. Having said that, there is a lot of stuff that is constantly being written all the time. So what you write has to be good and useful and meaningful. So if anybody is interested in sharing, I know you did already share what you are looking for, but for those, yeah, Farah, welcome. We have just only gotten started and we did a quick poll. So if you can write a little bit about what it is that you're looking for, and also what your purpose, what is the reason why you do want to write on social media. So is it just, if it's just a job for you, that's fine too. If it's, some people have mentioned they want to create their brand. For me, it was just spilling out of me. I could not help it. I do want to share that I started with a plagiarized post because I saw a lot of people were writing on LinkedIn and I didn't know how to begin. And then I just got on, and writing on LinkedIn is really, really very easy. So I picked up a post which wasn't mine. I changed it around a little bit and I plagiarized it. Sorry to say this on a public platform, and I will make sure I'll go and delete that. But that first post gave me the confidence, and after that I have written on my own. So let's get to the business impact of writing, because it is a lot of effort that you put in when you write, and so it's important to actually be able to monetize it or convert it. Farah, that's great. You want to intentionally build your brand, and a lot of us here are trying to do that. So in 2006, there was a study done by a marketing consultancy for professional service providers. They called this survey the business impact of writing a book. Now, the RAIN group of authors did not attempt to evaluate the merits or the quality of any of these books or how well the publishers marketed and distributed the books. But what was noticed was there was a tremendous positive impact in many indirect areas. So not directly in terms of making money, because to make money out of selling books is quite a challenge and it is very hard. However, there are people who are successfully making money by writing several ebooks on Amazon. So they did realize a big significant improvement in many different areas. The benefits broadly were in three areas. Their personal credibility went up, business credibility improved, and their brand clarity. So the way the personal credibility improved is you start getting looked at as more of a specialist. Uh, I saw people change their opinion of me when I published my book. And when I started writing initially on LinkedIn, it started as simply as writing on LinkedIn for Forbes to notice me and ask me to write for them. So it changes the way people look at you, especially your clients and the people around you. And you start getting looked at as somebody who's really committed to your craft, who really, is walking the talk, and you start getting speaker engagements. You start getting, if you're an independent consultant or in a business, you start getting more clients. So the process is long. It's exciting. It's harder, but the rewards are also quite unique. They are not rewards for the people who are okay with a mundane existence of getting up, going to work in the morning and coming back home. The business credibility will help you generate more leads, close more deals, increase your legitimacy, and improve the employee morale. If people write about, if your company is writing interesting stuff which reaches and connects and touches other people's hearts, all the employees feel proud of it and they want to take ownership in that. And it really is very useful for the company's morale. It lays out your intellectual property clearly. So in my case, I felt like it really helped me to understand my work and what I have to offer to people better. So sometimes we ourselves cannot see, because it's very widespread. As a leadership coach, there are a lot of different areas that you can create an impact on, and many different ways that you can help people. It does help you in giving clarity to your clients, to yourself, and to your products, ideas, and principles. So as you can see, it's a great idea to embark upon this journey. Now, for business writing and work-related writing, the right kind of writing that you're going to do is mainly non-fiction. There may be some of you who will probably be interested in fiction, and the principles of fiction are a little bit different, but as per the writing process, the technical creative process is more or less the same. The technical writing, the non-fiction writing is factual, it imparts knowledge, it is inspirational. As you build your personal brand, what you're basically trying to do through the writing is establishing yourself as a thought leader. No, Kanan, please feel free to ask the questions, because in case you forget.
Yeah, Bhavna. So the question that was coming to me is that maybe it's a little too premature to ask you. Should it always be on a chosen area, that is, people can identify you with your domain, or what has been your experience, or can you touch upon multiple areas as a individual?
So that's a very good question, and I would like to answer it in two parts. So it all depends on the purpose of your writing, and in my opinion, when it's creative, from the heart kind of a writing. Actually, before that, I'll answer Farah's question because she missed what I did. I am actually an ICF certified executive leadership coach, and I'm also an author, and I used to be an engineer. I serve on a board of directors. So basically, I help develop leaders at any level in an organization or even individuals. So sorry, Yakanan. So coming back to, so for me, the process was more organic, and I did not go out wanting to be a writer, but the self-reflection and a lot of meditation helps activate more of the right brain in you, and it starts making you more and more creative. And what happens is that the writing that comes out of that is very pure and very, very genuine. And later on, I started seeing a pattern in my writing, because you will write about the things that are really meaningful to you and are really important to you. So you could take it both ways. You could start with the writing, but you have to also go through. So the reason writing is so difficult is because it has a perfect marriage between the logical and the creative mind. So a lot depends on you of how much of a risk you're willing to take to allow the creativity to spurt versus the technical part. So when I write my blogs, which are not for Forbes or which are those blogs, sometimes I will actually go in the shower and I will intentionally go in the shower with the intention of writing. So the thoughts that come up, then I will come back and note them down quickly and then make an article out of it. But when I'm writing for Forbes, I will take some of those ideas, but I will solidify them along with some studies and some research work, and then it becomes a technical study matter. So I would say that really have fun with what will work for you, but you cannot discount both sides of it. Does that answer your question? I know I went on a little. Okay, great. So it's usually a how-to. This is the non-fiction writing. And now, mind you, even in this non-fiction technical parts, you can make it very interesting and you can put in stories and you can make the stories based on facts. So, like I said, in the business storytelling workshop that we do, we actually help people develop stories from their day-to-day mundane work. So just a quick poll on who do you follow online. If there are any bloggers that you follow, if anybody wants to share, or just a point of reflection, because that will give you an idea of what kind of writing you're really interested in, what catches your eye, and what you find interesting. Because sometimes in this crowded part, it's very difficult to yeah, great. So somebody, yes, posts of ink.com. Even I find ink.com interesting. Anybody else? Not really any individual author. Okay. Uh, I started looking at Elephant Journal. Um, that is more on the spirituality side. And yeah, I think a lot depends on your own interest. If what I do is if something catches my eye, then I will read that article and then I try to go on that site and look at their other articles that I may have missed. So great, John Maxwell, very good, excellent. Yeah, so there is so much out there now which you can follow. So it's really important to take stock and really pay attention to what it is that you are following and what is the reason why you're following those people that you're following them. So that's usually helpful in figuring out your own writing. So again, the elements of non-fiction, as I mentioned earlier, is you do have to cite research because people, for some reason, will believe in the research. So using examples, so in my book, I used a lot of examples of Amazon and eBay and how do they conduct meetings. Sometimes you need to send a message, not always. And adding your insights is something that comes with experience. So with my book, I did the framework and then I filled it up with insights and I would gather my insights somewhere else and sharing your experience. So people do want to hear the uniqueness of what you are going to offer. So, now we actually come to the technical aspects of writing. It's basically three things. You come up with ideas, you draft those ideas into pieces, and you edit those pieces and put it together. Now, this could be a blog, it could be an article, and then the article can come together as a book, which happened with me, and I mentioned it to one of the people I spoke to earlier. I set out to write a book, which was like a very complex topic, and then somebody suggested to me that I had actually hired a coach to help me with the writing process, and he connected me to somebody who had already written ebooks. And so that person suggested that why don't I look at what I've already written, because I'd already written so many small pieces, and try and come up with exactly what the book should be about. And that's exactly what I did, and that was the best piece of advice I could have gotten. To start out, what you need is this, but some of you are established authors, so you already know this. This is too basic. This slide, I would say, please pay attention to, because it really helped me a lot to know the difference between what is a blog post, what is an article, how is an article different from a blog post or an ebook or a novel, so to speak, like a non-fiction bigger book. For a blog post, is there anybody who really wants to start writing but has never written before? Please say yes, so then I'll go deeper in that. Otherwise, I will just move forward. But okay, great. So yes, when I decided that okay, I started many times. The idea is, I think the best approach would be to slowly move in this progression. When you build enough comfort with a few, maybe few blog posts, then you move towards articles, and then further you move into a book. So I think when you think of it like that, it's not very daunting. And when I look back, that's exactly what happened. Because it's about yourself getting comfortable with building this up. A book is daunting because it's a very big piece. You could write as short as 200 words, in fact, for a blog post. LinkedIn, like I said, or Facebook is great places to get started. LinkedIn is a great medium for work related people. Magazine articles is about from 750 to 1000 words. There's a little bit more work that is needed in that, and but an ebook can be as simple as even 5 to 6,000 words, quite honestly. But if you're wanting to charge for your ebook, like for me, it was very exciting. My book got sold in France and Italy recently. I still have not started full-on marketing of my book yet, but it's getting sold for about $2, 400, 500, 400, 500 rupees, I think. Yeah, and no, about 200 rupees. So best to start small and then find a link between your posts. I think this would be one really piece of advice if I were to give to anybody, is that really helps. Write about what you feel you are inspired about writing and keep writing, and then later go back and revisit what you've written and try to find a pattern. And I bet you it'll help you emerge with an ebook if nothing else. So these are some of the platforms. I know that some people wanted to know more about hashtags and some of the platforms. Quora is also, believe it or not, to get started, if even a blog is not something that you are ready to really take on, just go to Quora and start answering questions for people. You will find out so much about what people want to know, and you can be of assistance to them. This builds your own knowledge of what it is that are real problems that people want to solve. So just go to Quora, go to, Twitter is a single line, but sometimes even that requires great skill. Facebook, LinkedIn, like I said, the reason I have, as I started doing the webinars, I put some of them on SlideShare. The reason I have Pinterest and Instagram on is because there are, some artists here, and those are great platforms. And since we were covering social media platforms, I thought these two need to be there. I'm a big fan of Instagram, but I don't use it for my work. But I got a great idea from Instagram. Because I use it to follow a lot of inspirational things, I was always coming up with my own quotes. So I started making those quotes and I started putting them on LinkedIn. So that was another good way, and that is so much easier for people to read and absorb. And you can be out there every day. Writing takes so much more effort, but if you can come and obviously please note, these have to be genuine, nice quotes, and don't bombard people with like useless things. But so that is a good way. Once you develop more, you do a few LinkedIn posts. What started happening was, when I was doing the LinkedIn post, people started reaching out from random people and said, hey, why don't you write for my blog site and I'll pay you some 200 rupees for an article. And so that's when I started thinking that, why should I write for somebody else, There must be some meaning in my writing, and there are a whole bunch of content writers, by the way, who will do this work for you. So that's also not a bad idea. If you're building a brand and if writing is not your cup of tea, somebody who has a business and you don't have the time, you can also a lot of times pay people, content writers, you pay, a few hundred rupees per article per word, and get them to write for you, and you can give them a general idea. So hey, nothing wrong with that. As you build your brand, whatever works. Uh, the WordPress is of course a most fantastic site where you can actually publish your own blog, and Medium is something where they give you the platform and you have to post on them. So Blogger, WordPress, it's not the difficulty is not in identifying the site and writing it. The harder part is the writing, and once that starts happening, you will automatically figure these out, because Google and YouTube videos will give you all the information that you need. So quite honestly, I don't really go for too much training right now, because I just find whatever I need available online. So it's a secret I'm sharing. So now a little bit about hashtags. Because somebody had asked for it, I hope they are still there. But hashtags are such an important part of our culture now, and that so much so that they have been added to the Oxford Dictionary. And the most popular means of categorizing content on social media is still hashtags. It makes your content discoverable, and it also allows you to find relevant content from other people and businesses. So hashtags will allow you to connect with and engage other social media users based on a common theme or interest. It is important to learn to use them well. I'm sure most of you do know how to use them, but just some do's and don'ts. Please be specific. Just to give you an example, instead of say using, if you're trying to sell baby products, instead of using hashtag parents, which results in parents of all ages, children of all ages, you could say hashtag new mom. And that means that's your target customer and you're reaching out to them. So do cater, each social media platform has certain do's and don'ts for their own hashtags. So get familiar with the hashtags that are needed for Facebook versus Twitter versus LinkedIn. I think Twitter is one of the big examples for using hashtags and really making it effective. Come with relevant unbranded hashtags if possible. Brand hashtags don't also have to mention your brand, but like Lay's Potato Chips had come up with a campaign called Do Us a Flavor Contest. So their hashtag was Do Us a Flavor, and they use that everywhere to promote that campaign and then get data out of it. What not to do in a hashtag is, of course, don't make it too long. Try to make it relevant. Don't try to be too clever, because then it will lose its meaning. So just a little bit about hashtags. Like someone said, not a bad idea to revisit, because when I was putting it together because somebody asked for it, it really helped me as well. Now let's talk about the actual writing process. So I found myself getting a lot of my material even from general parties and stirring informal discussions and debate on my topic. My topic was such and is such that it relates to the corporate world. But I'm sure you can always find people who are willing to, give you these little bits of insights, which is so valuable. And then you give them that eager ear and that really presence of listening, and they get so excited and they're even more willing to share their stories. And whatever you find interesting, you can always note it down. One more thing I want to add at this point is about using iPhone notes. To me, that has been like one of the most valuable resource in being able to write. And when we come to the creative aspects of it, I will talk about it a little bit more. Start small, like we said, just start small. Don't be hard on yourself. Get early feedback. Like for the book, that was the good advice that I feel now in hindsight, my book is a little more technical. So the next book that I write, which I hope to write very soon, I'll go about it in a little bit of a different manner and try to make it even funnier and more real and more connected to me. The first one, I was just glad that I got a book out. Editing, leave the spell check, punctuation and grammar for later if you have to. And the biggest problem that a lot of authors face when they're writing a book is that they never finish. And when we come to the publishing part, I'll talk about how wonderful and beautiful and fantastic Amazon KDP is, the Kindle Direct Publishing platform, which allows you to go redo your writing. And so my suggestion would be to really do an ebook before you do a published book. Stay committed, but stay open to all possibilities. And above all, you have to be very kind to yourself. It's a tough process. Some things you will not like, and when I go back and look at some of the things that I've written, I feel like, oh my God, that's disgusting, and how could I do this? But you have to be kind to yourself, and you have to let that child in you also come out and play. So this is my most favorite part, because here you basically are, that's where the real writing comes through. And I read a few books, and what I realized about writing was that we can all write. So I don't believe it when someone says this person is more creative and this person has this talent, and we can all allow that talent to emerge if we allow ourselves to do that. So there is always millions of thoughts popping up in our heads all the time. And these thoughts are thoughts of anxiety or thoughts of excitement or many different thoughts driven by our emotions throughout the day. I think 60,000 thoughts in a minute, or I don't remember the count yet. But the creativity comes when we have allowed some of those thoughts to express themselves, and then there is some room, some empty room left. And then that's when we can identify the creative thoughts more easily. It's like, having a glass full of water, and if you take out the water partially, say for example, only then will you be able to have room in that glass to fill it with anything else. So it's a very simple example. But what I started noticing was that, of course, I came to a point where there were too many thoughts bubbling, and I still remember I was on a flight and there was no connection, and I just had all these ideas that were just brimming through my head, which I thought were very clever, and I started typing them. And later I put that together and I sent it out, and people, when you get that first like on LinkedIn, it's such a high. And so what I started doing was, then gradually, whenever I was even busy, whether I was cooking or walking or in the shower, and if some intelligent or clever idea came to me, I would immediately write it down, because otherwise it will go away. So it is your own idea, but it is the most unfaithful thing in the world. It will not stay with you if you do not grab a hold of it and make it your own. So I think that has been one great learning for me. And that applies to any kind of ideas, not just for writing, but more so for writing, because a lot more, you get a lot of ideas when you write. So you have to get into the mode of shifting from thinking and doing to feeling and being if you really want to create beautiful writing. Another thing that prevents writing is a lot of fears that hold us back. So at one point I was stuck, and I just could not write. So I want to just pause here and ask if we are going on track, or should I move faster? Am I going too fast or slow? Can you please quickly give me some feedback so I can continue being useful? Okay. Please feel free. Please. Okay. And is the material relevant? Because the underlying, once you have clarity, your personal brand will shine through. I could give you technical things on top, and that will not help, but okay, good, great. Yes, the common fears that prevent us from expressing ourselves, because the first person who judges is ourselves. So I was stuck, and one of the coaches that I had used, she told me that, why don't you one day just write for 10 minutes in a day, just write for the sake of writing, and without judging your own self and without expecting it to be shown to the world. And I cannot tell you how liberating that experience was. And so because of that, we will quickly go to this writing exercise if everybody wants to try it, because sometimes just doing this can really unblock you, and I promise you that if you write 3 or 4 sentences of this, tomorrow you will be writing some really good stuff. So if you have a pen or paper or just your phone, and take out notes or a word processor or even a little chit, if you could just write 2 or 3 sentences, take a couple of minutes and write 2 or 3 sentences on, once upon a time there was a boy or a girl, and you put your name there. Like once upon a time, there was a girl named Farah, or there was a boy named Kannan, or Parag, Kalpana, Nirmala. Write and just write 3 or 4 sentences. Trust me, people, this is a very, very difficult thing to do. And anyway, you can take this forward later on and just reflect on this starting prompt. If you feel like sharing, please do share. It's totally up to you. We will be happy to share it. There are more writing exercises that you can also do. The writing exercise help channelize when you're stuck, when you can't think of anything else, you need to take a break. These writing exercises help, especially people who want to get started with writing. It's a great idea. It's called writingexercises.co.uk. Does anybody want to share?
Hi, Farah here.
Hi Farah. Yes.
So I haven't got more than 3 lines. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. 3 is a lot. But the first time I was asked to do this, it took me a good 5 minutes to come up with 3 or 4 lines myself.
Actually, I just stopped myself. I probably would have enjoyed doing this for the next 10 minutes. But let me just share what I started with. So once upon a time, there was a girl named Farah who believed that life was a bed of roses, carnations, and orchids. She looked at the world with stars in her eyes, and while life gave her a lot of roller coasters, dash, 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 dash. She still looks at it like that. Yeah, so that's the end of the story.
That's excellent. That's you're a natural born writer. Very, very beautiful to come up with that in such a short time. So I do hope
Thank you.
to publish a book.
Hi, Bhavna.
I'm
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah,
Yes,
Nirmala.
Farah, please. I
I
would like
said
to.
sorry. Sorry, I
No,
just
not a
wanted to
problem.
finish what I was saying.
Farah, yeah, Farah, please continue. Continue.
Sorry, I missed your introduction, but I know you're a leadership coach. So obviously, after this webinar, I would love to stay in touch. Probably you'll inspire me to do some writing. Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm on this webinar.
Thank you so much. I'm inspired by you too with that writing, and thank you so much for being here. So I'm very grateful for that. So thank you for sharing. And Nirmala, yes, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I would like to share what I have written. In fact, this is exactly what is happening to me, and I'm happy that this webinar has happened because it's given me a kind of a new lease. The girl who always paused. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Nirmala. She wanted to be a great writer, well known and well loved. But
Okay.
it was not easy. Whenever she started writing, she would write 2 or 3 lines and would pause.
Mm.
Why? She would go blank. Then she had to wait for the next day to again start writing. That's it. I mean, that's how I finish.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. So yeah, so I think that's the whole thing, that sometimes giving yourself a prompt when you are stuck in your writing, it's a good way. And going back to the slide, one more thing that I wanted to point out was that the very first, the best way to gain confidence in almost anything in this world is to take just one step in the direction that you're feeling most fearful of. And just taking that one step gives you so much confidence that it takes away your fear. So this is again in relationship to what you have, what your idea is. And I thought that another way to identify what is the idea, like Kannan had asked earlier about what is the idea that you want to write about, is always when you are writing, you need to keep in mind that if you're writing for someone to read, then it's about them, it's not about you. The writing is not really about you, it is about them. So it is something that they need to take away from it. Is it a problem that you're solving for them? Who is your reader? Sometimes even identify that one person sitting in an office who's actually reading that article. Kannan, you said that's a big shift, as in, can you elaborate?
Yeah, so what I meant is when you start writing, it is always about what you feel and how you feel. You tend to kind of miss that what can a reader take away from it and what benefits or what value will it add to the reader. But when you say it is always about them, how do you really make that shift?
Good question. So I think, like I said in the beginning, it's a beautiful dance between the left and the right brain. And while you do not lose your identity and your style in the writing, you still need to think about the person who's reading it. And especially because we are talking about business writing. I think it even applies to fiction and a story because you have to engage the reader. But in a fictional story, very often you make it descriptive, right? So you make it very visual and you make it descriptive and you make the characters very interesting to get their attention. But in case of business writing, most likely they are coming to you because they want to solve a problem that they are facing at work. I'm talking about people who are writing for, most of the people here I think are writing, when you're creating a personal brand, you're trying to write to communicate what you believe in. And why will anybody care about what you believe in? Either when you believe in the same thing that they believe in, or you're solving a problem for them. So it's a two-way street, and it's that constant balance. So you can't forget that you are writing so that it gets read, is what I'm trying to say here. That yes, you write because it's something that's coming out of you, but it's like how we do it in coaching as a coach, that you are there to help people, but it should actually translate into a business as well. So it's very much walking on both those at the same time. And so what helps is when you look at authors, like one thing that I learned from about blogs is that if the line, the catch line is not interesting, no matter how interesting your articles is, nobody going to click on it. And also we're talking in the context of social media. So that's why it becomes very important to keep that in mind. Just seeing what the successful authors are doing well, which segment of the market is being neglected, and how can you fill the gap. Again, this is the sales part of the marketing sales part of you has to step up, and you combine that creativity that you put forth with the sales, because it has to be this constant marriage between the two. So knowing who your reader is, sometimes I like to even imagine who is this person who has actually read my article and liked it, especially when somebody likes it. So like I've been saying a few times, we have about 15 minutes more left, but building your own support group is very important. I could not have done it without some of the mentors and the coaches who actually helped me. I even reached out to writing agents, a writing coach in Australia. I spoke to her, but then I didn't go ahead using her. I myself do help people in helping them structure their writing because I'm a coach myself and I've done it once. I reached out to ghostwriters, a very interesting space. There's this whole underground world of ghostwriters, but the problem with ghostwriters is they're very expensive. And when I picked a topic that was not completely resonating with me, that's when I felt so desperate that I reached out for ghostwriters, and then I gave that up. Book coaches, regular coaches is what I used, and some mentors. Everything else I did not really end up using, but I did look into it, and I found that. So I'll try to do last 10 minutes of the publishing bit, which I think is very useful, and I'm very thankful to the people who helped me discover this. There's two broad ways in which you can publish your work. One is by self-publishing and the other is traditional publishing. When you say self-publish, you can either have an ebook or a print book. So I went the self-publish route, and I have an ebook which is available on Amazon. And then also a book that I got I got 35 copies printed from Printo. And the reason I did that was because a lot of people started asking me and for a book, and then also every time I went to a client site, I carried the book with me. So to not have a single book was very difficult, like a hard copy. And so I printed them, and if you print fewer copies, you end up paying more. So mine is about 250 rupees. It cost me that much to print it, but it's more like a marketing tool that I use. Then there's traditional publishing, and you have small publishers and large publishers like Penguin and the big ones. And I'll go a little more detail into the self-publishing part because that's something I'm more familiar with. I do have a publisher, and I'm going to finish 2 more e-books, which is smaller books, and then together we are going to combine that and publish it as a proper book, a paper book down the road. But that's aspirational. Let's see how the divine plan unfolds. The e-books, the advantage is that the formatting is very simple. It's inexpensive. It's very, very easy, and you're able to reach the global world. Okay. Like I said, my book got sold in France and Italy, and I was most excited by that. India and US, of course, I've been selling it. The print books formatting is more complex if you're doing it yourself. Now, if you have a publisher, then there's a lot of work you don't have to do. But to get to that stage where you have a publisher, you have to do so much work and build so much credibility that it can be quite a task. And the world is moving more and more towards ebooks. It is much costlier, it caters to a smaller niche market, and you do have greater control over the final product. The print on demand is another great option. There's this website called potli.com, P-O-T-L-I, and now Amazon has also started this, where they will only print a book when somebody orders it. So that is a great way to have both. You have an ebook, and then when somebody asks for the ebook, they will print it, and they will probably cut it from your royalty and send it forward. The formatting though is where I had to put in a lot of work when I wanted to get my ebook printed, because you cannot have even a little mistake, and you know the titles, the header, there's a lot of formatting work is needed. And in case of ebooks, all you need to do is format the content, because it gets published on Amazon Kindle, and so when you click, it needs to go to that chapter. So you can do something as basic as that. The website that I used, and which I think 70% or 80, 90, I would say 90% of ebook writers use, is Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. It's a godsend. I would say that I would go as far as to say that I could publish it only because of Amazon Direct Kindle. And in the beginning, when you log on to it and you open an account, it is a little challenging. But just Google search each topic that you have to fit in, and you will be fine. And if you still have questions, please reach out and I'll be happy to help. But it's just 2 pages of information, and you need to understand how the royalty works, and it's not very complicated at all. So you can keep updating the version of your book. Like I have a new chapter now on the different decision-making styles of different people. Like there are 5 typical decision-making styles. So I'm going to add that chapter in my ebook, although my print book doesn't have it. And I can do that very easily in Kindle Direct Publishing. So guys, please really just have that faith that you have something that will help you. There are others, which is Nook Press, even Potli, Payhip, Book Tango. There are different formats of royalties and how you do it, but nothing as marvelous and fantastic as Amazon Direct Kindle. So here are some advantages on this. Any questions on the publishing? Please feel free to ask. And here is the traditional publishing. So I also was put in touch with a mid-size, not very big, average I would say size publisher in India. He told me that what you need is to hire a project manager when you start writing a book. So when you are trying to publish a book on paper, you also need project management work. And that's where I was struggling. So I did connect with a couple of project managers as well. But you would have to pay them something, and if your idea or your topic is very good, or you're very established in your field, then sometimes the publishers do give you a little bit of an advance. But there are so many writers now, and there's very few people who actually do the exams. So somebody said that they don't take my views for self-publishing distributors. But that's, yes, I do want to highlight that that was my experience and that's what worked for me. And I'm sure there are different avenues and platforms available. So the distribution of your book, it will be well known, there will be a big launch, and I know a coach who's actually working on a book which is completely, he wants to make it a bestseller. So you can actually, you know, get on a path in which you create a bestseller. So for it to be a bestseller on New York Times, so many copies have to be sold. You do bulk deals, you get endorsements from really, really big people. I was very lucky to get endorsements from a whole bunch of very reputed people. I wasn't even sure whether I wanted them because it was a smaller book that I was writing. And help with they will help you with the formatting and the cover. And the disadvantages is there's less autonomy. There's a lot of, you hardly make any money, and also very arduous path. This is not, we don't have that much time, about 5 more minutes, so I will not go into too much detail of the proposal, but in traditional publishing, which is something that was a good learning for me, is that you start with the proposal. So the very first thing that you have to write is actually a proposal, which you will send out to the publisher. You don't have to write the whole manuscript up front, but when you're a first-time writer, then they expect you to finish at least 3 chapters. These are the components of a proposal. But again, like I said, I don't think we'll have time to go into so much detail in that. Websites, blogs. So whenever you are going to be a writer, you need marketing channels, regardless of whether it's traditional publishing or self-publishing. And you need to have your website, you need to be writing blogs, you need to have an email list, and you need to offer opt-in bribes to people to keep collecting their email list and be subscribed. You need corporate contacts to be able to go and talk about your book, speaking opportunities, and a whole lot of digital marketing. So there is a lot of work that is needed to be done, and it is slowly, you build on that process. It does take time, and I do think it is worth it. As you do that, you learn a lot about yourself, you create your personal brand as you go along. Your voice becomes clearer, people start identifying your work, they really understand what you believe in, that you care about, and you really are trying to put it out there. So in conclusion, why write? Gain personal credibility, business credibility, and branding. Plan your work, find your voice, set deadlines for yourself, stick to them. Don't forget about publishing and marketing channels, and you're not alone. Build a support network to help you through. So thank you very much, and I will take any more questions or any other, and I would also like some feedback on what could be better, like what would be nice to add in a webinar like this. Thank you, Kanan.
Hi, Farah here.
Yeah, hi, Farah.
So I didn't know what to expect. It's very interesting because I was thinking of going digital this year with the kind of work I do, not because I want to, it's all about the visibility, because I have this need to add value and give back. So I also had this thought about writing a book, and all these thoughts came into my head this year. So, sometimes when you have, a kind of a goal of starting a blog and, become visible and get your voice out, you automatically end up attracting these kind of things. So that's how I ended up, I don't know from where I got information about your webinar. I'm so glad I did. So I want to thank you for sharing so many tips. And just for me, especially when I'm starting, it's a beautiful, it just opened my mind, especially that little exercise. Because I know that when I write, I can write, but there's so many things that stop you. So you allow, in a short time like this, you have actually helped me feel unstuck in many ways. So I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I'm glad. I know 1 hour is a very short time to cover such a big topic, but the idea was to just give a little bit of what I have gone through and how frustrating it can be. And oh, that's great. You have started a children's fiction and finished 4 chapters. Well, wishing you the very best. And please share with me once you finish. And I would love to, know more of it. Any other feedback? What topics should have been covered less, and what should have been a little bit more?
Hi, this is Parinita. So I found it quite valuable because there was some stuff I didn't know in what you shared. At this point, I won't be able to tell you what else you could have covered, but like in the end, you had to skip one or two slides. So probably spending a little more time than an hour. I don't know if it works for you, but investing a little more time, if possible.
Okay.
So that
content, right?
it caters to. Yeah, I know it's tricky because you've got a diverse audience.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I will be in touch with you. I found it pretty helpful because there were certain points, especially when the list of sites that you mentioned, I didn't know all of them. Of course, I've been using WordPress and Quora and all that I've been doing. But there was some information which I found, like pearls of wisdom, small pieces that were very useful. Thank you for that.
Great, thank you. Yes, on what kind of blogs to write about, being more specific about what kind of a blog one can write. So it's a very diverse audience, like I said, and one way to find your personality that you bring out along with what people need. I think it's the merging of the two. So it's very difficult unless you do a one-on-one session and you try to come out with what is your voice, or you speak to a friend and try to evaluate what it is that you should write about. It's very difficult for me as an outsider to tell you that this is what you should write about, because quite clearly I don't know most of you really well. So somebody's asked that question on what kind of blogs to write, but the one thing that was told to me when I started on the writing journey is just read a lot. So if you want to write on the social media platform, then read what is being put out there in the social media platform. So very interesting to know, because what are the kinds of posts that are getting many likes, that are being shared on Facebook? What do a lot of people like? So you have to do a little bit of that observation, so that is needed. And then, like I said, the heading is very important. So yeah, thank you, Ankit, so much for attending till 1:30 in the night. I hope it was useful to you. And I guess, yes, it's 8, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Somebody got a trigger from this webinar to write, and I could not be happier. And I'm so glad to hear that. So wishing everybody, the best of luck, and please, continue to write. At least write something. At least journal, if nothing. But I'm wishing all the people who are writing a book all the best, and I do want to hear of that book.
Right. Thank you so much, Bhavna. Thanks for time.
Thank you. Bye, everybody, and good night. We will be exiting now.